Yo, what is up guys? It is Bumfris, back with episode 40 of our Reddit series. This one's going to be some more entitled parents, and I know you're going to love this one. I just want to show a bit of gratitude for all the recent love. We've got about 50,000 subscribers in 4 days, and I really cannot thank every single one of you enough. If you're new around here and like my stuff, don't forget to smash the subscribe button, then sit back, relax, and get annoyed at some entitled parents. So this story happened years ago, but recently there was a bit of an update and I just needed to get it off my chest. When I was 17, our house burnt down. We were actually still inside when the fire started. On a side note, if you have one of those huge old TVs, get rid of it. But anyway, thankfully our passerby woke us up before the fire had spread too far for us to escape. So here we were, outside of our home, watching firefighters trying to save it, when I noticed my next door neighbor filming the whole thing. Now, back when I still lived at home, we lived in a small village where everyone knew their neighbors. So I knew who this was, and I decided to confront him. I walked over to him and asked him why he thought it was okay to film this. He first gave me some rubbish about how this was a one-time occurrence, but then he seriously started telling me how traumatizing the whole thing was to his children. In detail, he told me how they'd probably never feel safe again living next to our house and how terrible it was that they'd had to wake up seeing a house burn down. All the while, he seemed to be completely oblivious as to who he was telling his sad story to. Here I was, watching our family home burn down, my mother in hysterics, my little sister crying, and this man feels the need to tell me how this fire was really bad for his kids. I wish I could say that I let him have it, but I was too taken aback to respond. And just to clarify, we lived in a neighborhood where all of the houses had a huge patch of land. So while he was our next door neighbor, our houses were far apart and there was no risk of the fire jumping to his house. That worry I would have understood at least. So the update. A few months ago, my mum and I were talking about the fire and she mentioned a part of this story that I'd never heard before. After the fire, we had to move into temporary housing while our house was being restored. Now, as I said before, we lived in a village where everyone knew each other, so we were still regularly in our old neighborhood visiting our neighbors. It turns out that this guy had planned on suing my family for inflicting emotional damage. Yes, for having our house burned down next to him, he was going to sue us while we had lost everything for the emotional harm that it caused his family. Now, the backlash from the other neighbors against this idea was apparently enough to get him to reconsider, but I really wish I'd heard about his plan back then because I would have loved to have confronted him again. This has to be one of the most unusual stories that I've heard on this subreddit so far. This is almost the equivalent of somebody falling down a flight of stairs in front of somebody's kids, severely injuring themselves, and then the dad decides that they're going to sue them because their kids just witnessed you fall down the stairs. I swear, some people just do whatever they can for a bit of free money. This encounter happened about 7 months ago. I don't want to insult your intelligence because you most likely already know what EM and ME stands for, but I should say that EK in this story stands for embarrassed kid and OG stands for old gentleman, some 60-year-old guy. The kid was very polite and sorry, so this isn't about him. Also, I'm translating this to English, so bear with me. A little backstory first. About a year ago, I was diagnosed with a cancer of the nasal cavity. The tumor was quite large, but thankfully, benign. People have pointed out that I formulated this wrong. By benign, I wanted to shorten the fact that it still did not spread into other tissues, thus it was still contained, which is what I thought the word meant. I apologize for my gaps in knowledge. To get it removed, I first had to undergo aggressive chemotherapy to make it smaller. Thanks to the chemo, I had severe alopecia or hair loss, which made most of my hair and even eyebrows and eyelashes fall out. At some point, I had to go bald, but I wore a wig because I didn't want to look like a skinhead / neo-Nazi. I'm 6'4" and pretty muscular, so I thought people would assume. So once, after a long chemo session in the hospital, I took the bus home. There's only one bus that goes from the hospital to where I live, so I took that one to only see that it was absolutely packed. I felt like crap thanks to the chemo, so I asked a middle-aged dude to let me sit. He was very understanding and gave me a spot without complaining, so if you're reading this, thanks. 2 stops later, enter entitled mum. A lovely woman with an I demand a parley with the CEO haircut and a 12-something-year-old. It took her roughly 5 seconds to see that the bus was packed, start looking for a free spot, spot me, and start marching. Or in her case, trying to fit in the aisle between the seats while shoving others aside to me. When I saw her, I knew I was screwed. She then stood next to me and decided to talk to me. This is the conversation that followed. The entitled mum goes, "Hey, could you let my kid sit down?" And I say, "You mean me?" So she goes, "Who else?" So I respond saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, but I'm on my way back from the hospital," and then the entitled mum cuts me off and says, "So are we," which I knew was nonsense because this stop was a few kilometers away from the hospital. And then she continues, "My boy just broke his leg and we're coming straight from the ER." Meanwhile, her kid was just standing right next to her without any support, clearly embarrassed. Seeing this, I say, "He's standing next to you completely fine." The entitled mum then goes, "Look here, boy. By the way, I'm 21 years old. My kid deserves to sit down." And I say, "Look, madam, I'm sorry, but I just got back from a chemo session in the hospital and I need to rest." I then move my wig a little bit so she can see my bald head. The entitled mum then straight up started yelling in my face, "Stop making excuses and get off the effing seat, you effing skinhead piece of crap." At this point, I was baffled. I didn't know what to say. The kid was trying to make his mother stop and we had the attention of the whole bus. She then grabbed me and tried to yank me from my seat. I held on tight and thankfully didn't fall off. Now enter OG, my savior. "Will you shut the F up, you dumb cow?" And she goes, "Who do you think you are talking to?" And then with the most ice cold voice, he says, "Stop assaulting other passengers or I will be forced to step in. Also, every dumb moron can see that this dude has cancer." Then she says, "No, he's just an effing skinhead." So the old guy goes, "He's got no eyebrows, you twat." It seems like that really offended the entitled mum because she spun around on the spot and threw a falcon punch in the old guy's face. I was shocked and in disbelief. The whole bus was flabbergasted and the kid probably wished she'd never been born. The old guy then said something unbelievable and golden. Sweet karma moment follows. Okay, that does it. Harassing passengers on the bus, physical assault against a passenger, and now assaulting an officer? You're in deep trouble, lady. The old guy then pulls out a badge and told her to stay where she was. Then he pulled out his phone, called someone, and told her she was being arrested. I couldn't believe it. The old guy was a bloody cop. At this point, the entitled mum was as white as a wall. The bus had just come to a stop, so she decided she'd make a run for it. But other passengers blocked her way. She then also got charged with resisting arrest thanks to this. 3 stops later, a police car was waiting for the entitled mum and her son. The son told me he was sorry for his mother's behaviour and I felt really sorry for the kid. He wasn't a bad child, but his mother was a hellspawn. The old guy then talked to me and asked me if I wanted to press charges, to which I gladly said yes. Took a statement and thankfully was kind enough to let me solve everything on the phone, so I didn't have to come to the police station for questioning. In the end, the entitled mum got some jail time, I think it was for a few months, and some community service. I, in return, got a good story to tell and the sweet taste of instant karma. Right now, I'm riding the same bus home as I just got back from the hospital after a checkup, which reminded me of this story. A friend who's sitting next to me told me I should post it here. He, as much as myself, also couldn't believe that such people existed, but it seemed that I proved it to him. I should note that the surgery went well, I was declared cancer-free in November and my hair is slowly returning. Also, I don't need to wear a wig anymore. I've come across some pretty bad people in my life and I can honestly say that none of them are as bad as this. At least there was a positive ending to the story. The mother got what she deserved, OP was cancer-free, everybody wins. Last year, I gave haircuts just like my dad before his accident, and a little fun fact, I'm a boy and my favourite colour is pink, so F that parent. Today at the barbershop wasn't very busy. We had only given cuts to 4 people. The other barber went home after nobody had come in for an hour, which was irresponsible, but I can't blame him. Then the 5th person walks in. It's a woman with her son. The son looked about 14 to 15 and the mother looked like the 40s range. They walk in and I give the boy a haircut. At the end of the cut, the boy asks for a little bit of pink dye in the front of his hair, and at this point the mum wasn't watching as she was on her phone, so I did what he asked and then we were finished. I told the woman the total and she looks up at her son and says, "What the hell is that? Why is pink in my son's hair?" The boy tries to talk to his mum, but she cuts him off and says to me, "What the F is your problem? You aren't getting paid for ruining my son's hair." I start to say that I'm sorry ma'am, and then thankfully the boy chimes in and says, "Mum, I asked for it." The entitled mum looks at the boy with evil eyes and I knew something was going to happen, but I have to say, I really appreciate this boy sticking up for me because I'd expected him to say nothing, and normally I don't know what to say in these situations, so brownie points to him. The entitled mum says to him, "Why? Pink is for girls, not boys." Entitled mum is shouting now, which is basically what I expected. I mean, what else could she do? Sue him for having pink in his hair? The boy retaliates saying, "You know what? I'm sick of your crap, mum. You literally don't respect anything I do. If I hang out with the disabled at school, you will force me to hang around with the people who pick on them, and when my girlfriend brought me a shirt with a pink heart on it, you threw it in the garbage. And you are so effing lazy. You make me and dad do everything around the house. F you, mum." The boy stormed out of the shop and the mother left to chase him. I didn't earn my money, but I wasn't really pissed. I was shocked and confused, but the boy returned minutes later and came back and yeeted $20 in the shop. He didn't even step inside. He opened the door and threw it in. I think his crazy mum was chasing him. I was still in shock and felt for the kid. I never saw them again, and I don't work at the barbershop no more. I feel like the more of these I read, the more people I'm coming across that are actually sticking up for their awful parents. Not only is this lady an entitled parent, she also sounds like a pretty damn bad one at that. When your own kid's telling you you're lazy and you don't respect them, there's probably a bit of a problem. Alright everyone, that is that for today's episode of Entitled Parents. I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I briefly touched on this just before the end of the video yesterday, but just so you all know, I do have a Twitter and I do have an Instagram account. They're both at Bumfris if you want to follow, and that way if you want an avenue to chat with me as well, you can always just shoot me a message. I've already responded to heaps of messages in the last 24 hours, so feel free to shoot me a message. Also, the live stream is going to be this Sunday, Australian Eastern Daylight Time at 8 AM. For a lot of you guys in the US, that's about the middle of the day on the Saturday, so I hope that suits everyone. We'll just chill out, play some games, have a bit of fun. You guys can ask me as many questions you want, including the big one of why the heck my name is actually Bumfris. It'll just be on YouTube, so you guys won't have to worry about going on Twitch or anything like that, so it's super easy and everyone can join. But otherwise, that's just about going to wrap things up for today. I just want to say again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I'll see you all tomorrow for some more pro revenge.